All right, good afternoon and welcome listeners to another insightful hour on our program, Unique Show on 103.5 FM Unical Radio International. It's a wonderful week and I hope you are having a wonderful week and a fat week already. And I trust last week was excellent because we discussed on something very, very unique last week, and I'm sure you learned a lot. Today we are here, and I'm so delighted that it's another week on the Unique Show for us to learn about leadership, for us to know more about what leadership is all about. Today I have a very wonderful guest in the house, and my God, whenever I mention his name, I'm sure you would be so amazed to have him here today. Yes, today I have a wonderful guest, and he's no other person than my wonderful, 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 and most beautiful, most handsome man, the most handsome man that University of Calabar have ever recorded as an SUG president. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we have Mr. Uga James Ugar in the house, the former SUG president, and he has had so many positions in Cross River State, but we'll just leave it there for now. Please, okay, just say hi to the people.
Well, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be in the studio with you.
Yeah, we're so glad, since 2021, or 2021?
Yeah,
2021, yeah, 2022, that you were SCG president. We cashed fund, we enjoyed the government, and that's why we're here today, to really discuss about the leadership model you were able to use to catalyze change, in your time as an SUG president. And I'm having my wonderful co-host. Well, my co-host will join us soon, but I'm here with Chinwe. Please, can you greet the people?
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Okechukwu Chinwe and it's really lovely to be here.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Chinwe, for being here. It's wonderful. Last time on the show, you really, let the people understand that there's so much we can learn from ourselves as young people. So today, what do we have? Our topic today is exemplary leadership. Exemplary leadership. A lot of people, there've been a lot of discussion on this. How do we live an exemplary leadership? Is it all about vision? Is it all about skills? Is it all about personality? How do you live an exemplary life as a leader wherever you find yourself? So there have been a lot of discussion. What could actually be that example you can show for it, wherever you find yourself in your space. Just like, the Holy Bible said that you should shine your light wherever you find yourself. So how do we shine that light? That's why we're here today. And I'm sure my guest in the house, Mr. Uga James, who had been in the leadership, journey for quite a while now and is still in the system, contributing his little quota to catalyze change. He will help us to analyze this and to tell us. So, sir, in your view, what does it mean, to be an exemplary leader?
Okay. Well, I should start by saying good afternoon once again to everybody listening, and of course my host, Mr. Life, and then co-host. It's nice to be here in the studio. Now, when we talk about leadership and example, of course, we're trying to talk about two distinct ideologies. Now, for someone to be an example, it means somebody has to be a role model. Somebody has to be at a certain level of class that can shine an inspiration to a different class of people too. And when you talk about leadership, generally, for somebody to be a leader, the person should be able to set for himself an example to the people he leads. And so what's my idea about exemplary leadership? I think a leader who is an example is a leader who, number one, is able to uphold himself in the right moral first. Before we talk about competence, there has to be character, the right moral character. Then, of course, the leader is able to execute his tasks, his functions, in the best way that serves the purpose for which he's trying to lead. So that's my idea.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I could remember in before you became a SOG president, where I really met you was at Daniel Generation. You know, Daniel Generation is one of those institutions in this on this campus that help enhances the leadership of young people. And each time you come around and all of that, I was like, who is this man? And also looking from your religious background, where you were coming from. And I'm mentioning all of this because you mentioned character, building morals as a leader that wants to become an example to others. So you have to, first of all, appreciate morals over over being competent, over being competent. So morals have to be the very first lineup in your plan that you have to bring up. So Chinwe, could you give us an highlight on this?
Okay, hello everyone once again. Thank you so much for having me here, Mr. Life. I think he has said it all. What he said was it actually makes a lot of sense, because personally I feel most people are always looking outward whenever it comes to leadership. So you have to look inward, check yourself. You have to be someone with good character first of all before you can, attain any leadership position. So yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. So that takes me to my second question, sir. What are the qualities that makes a good leader? I know we've highlighted that one, you have to recognize your morals. So you could build up from there to establish the qualities that really makes one an exemplary leader.
Okay, well, this is quite intriguing and tough question because when you take a closer look at the idea of leadership and then those people who have been in leadership for a while, you discover that generally anybody must be a good leader. Number one, must first, as I said earlier, has built himself in character. Now, character is a different ball game altogether because it is a lot. When somebody has built himself in character, the person must have built temperance, because it's necessary to have good temperance when it comes to leadership. The person must have built interpersonal relationship, because you cannot lead people that you cannot carry along. When it comes to leadership as well, the person must have built himself when it comes to information, because what stands the leader out in most leadership positions is the ability to have information that can help your followers get ahead. Now, a leader who sits most of the times is how much do for his followers. At the end of the day, inspiration matters a lot in leadership. Now, can this person inspire these other persons to do more with their own innate abilities? So if you have to look at a good leader, the person must be able to inspire other persons as well. When I've talked about character, I've talked about competence now, I'm delving into confidence, I'm trying to talk about that the leader has to have information that is above his peers, because foresight is very important in leadership. I could remember at a time when I think let me take one of the closest experience I've had in leadership, when we had to deal with the issue of tackling the then rise of increment in school charges. And then we were confronted with the fact that management had come up with a proposition to increase school fees. At that time, I think the average fees every student in Nika was paying was around 32,000, and then the proposition when it comes to an average was around 60 something thousand. So that was almost like a 100% increase.
Yeah.
Now, one who is not able to manage himself in character, manage his emotions or her emotions, gets proper information, will have made the wrong decision. because generally your followers most times are not availed the opportunity to understand certain reasons why certain decisions must be made. Now, if you're not a good information manager, if you have this information and you're not able to designate it, process it, and then come out with valid propositions as your own decision at the end of the day, you cannot be a good leader. Because leadership positions are filled with pressure. Because the followers have a certain expectations of you, and of course those expectations are valid expectations because leadership is supposed to be about you serving your people. But the truth is this: when it comes to leadership, the clear distinction between a leader and a follower is insight, and insight is usually informed as a result of the information you have. As at that time, there were issues within the universities. There were problems because we did not have classrooms. If you could remember at that time when Unica was trending as one of the institutions that have to sit down on the floor to write examinations.
Exactly, that's true.
Now, we were faced with the challenge of either getting ahead of ourselves or making the decision of pulling some level of sacrifice as a union. Ordinarily, certain level of decisions cannot be comprehended by followers until they begin to see the dividends of those decisions. And so, most times, as a leader, if you are not able to look inward and have insights and see the future, you will not be able to make correct decisions because you will be carried away to please the followers. Who at a certain times, because there are some people who are, that certain progenitors that said that, I think, certain socialist concepts, and then they try to explain, certain leadership models like countries like America use, where some of them, communism and the rest, that at the end of the day, if you must make a decision to do a certain project, the impact of that decision at that time, how will it affect the people you are leading? Take for instance, if we need to build a road, and the best way to build that road is a certain, this is a certain path we are supposed to use. But because of probably on that landmark, there have been some things that the people have been accustomed to, maybe a particular tree.
Yeah.
That have some certain sentimental affiliations and have even given some real appellations to the emotions of your followers. And then you have to take that out. Generally, people will come up with agitations. It has always been there. But eventually, if you're able to build a rail track on that road, and then probably that becomes the fastest route between point A and point B, where these people can begin to advance themselves economically, where you can now save yourself less time on the road traveling. At the end of the day, most times, except the followers critically analyze certain decisions, you will discover that you will be faced with balancing the expectations, the emotional expectations of your followers, and then the real expectations of leadership. So I think the most important character of a leader is the ability to gather insight.
Amazing, amazing. So Chiwe, your contribution, please.
Okay, honestly, while he was talking, I was a bit lost because I have not really been in a position of, any leadership position as at now. But one peculiar thing I have noticed with, leaders that have struck a mark to me is leaders that are humble, humility. And for me personally, I think humility is, being able to take yourself out of, take your ego out of the equation and see the bigger picture. It ties into everything. When you have humility as a virtue, as a leader, you're able to easily pick up your flaws and work on them. See the things that are lacking, and all of these things that he has mentioned. So you're able to work on them also. So I think that's a very peculiar insight that I've noticed with leaders.
If you're not one word,
Yeah,
you don't get, you don't get
honestly,
ahead. You can't get
honestly,
ahead. You can't get
So
ahead.
that's just something that that's the only contribution that I have, because I don't think I've ever, I've never been in a position of leadership.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, we just have the arrival of our wonderful co-host, Favor Igwe. Please, Favor, could you just say hi to the people?
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah. So well done. Yes, sir. Because that period where I'm SCG president, I understand that it was a very tough moment because it was a new regime, a new VC, a new everything. So there were a lot of fix in the system. Well, she mentioned immunity, and you agree to it, that as a leader, you have to be very humble to be successful and to become an example to others in leadership. How do you portray this? Because people felt that you were too aligned with the school management, and most of the suggestions they made, you bought into them. You were trying to process the information, just like you said, insight. Like you had an insight over your followers. So I want you to create this analysis.
Okay. Well, humility is not subjugation to the will of a given party. Humility is a character, is a characterization of a human being that tries to put away ego, right? Just like he said. So if we're trying to analyze what happened in that period, we cannot properly classify it as being humble to administration.
Okay.
Because the job you have as a leader goes beyond satisfying ego. Now, if you were talking about being a prideful leader, at that point in time, because it's activism, and activism for us is usually always saying no. It's usually always saying no. But unfortunately, always saying no do not mean always saying yes to the right thing. If you talk about accepting the propositions of management, it is usually very difficult, especially in our climate, where you have a population where they are usually led by popular ideology rather than the correct ideology. I said here earlier that management had proposed for many reasons why they had to increase certain charges, or which I tried to highlight certain, which of course was evident in the fact that we were no longer able to have proper facilities to accommodate our students. With an 100% increment after coming back from the the COVID break, that of course was like an economic tsunami for the whole world to survive the level of inflationary trend that arose after COVID.
Yeah.
And so if you are talking about justifications for why they needed to be, because as university students, we do not pay, especially students who are under the NUC, we do not pay tuition fee. What we pay are certain school charges. And these charges are usually specific service based. Now, the product today we have a smart identification system in West of Calabar, the unique ID. And I think you know that is a process, is a product of that smart ID card identity system that gave birth to where we're seated here today as unique radio.
Exactly, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, do you know that we're able to achieve all of this because instead of us going to pay a certain 2,000 naira in our school fees and going to then the Unica to collect a shabby made identity card, we decided to say, okay, let us in factoring in inflation, let us now pay 4,200. Which management proposed that you should pay 8,000 naira. But if you're talking about saying you sat down and agreed to what management said, then you are trying to say there was no difference at what was proposed and what was agreed at the end of the day. At the end of the day, sir, the highest that was increased for any, which was the beginning level, was paying 37,000 or 40,000 naira to paying, I think at that time was 62,000 naira. And that 62,000 naira included your academic gown, that normally before then, when you pay your tuition, your fees, you still have to go and pay a certain 5,000 naira, certain 2,000 naira as student affairs for handbook. So let's remove 5,000, excuse me please, 5,000 naira for academic gown and 2,000 naira for your student handbook. That was 7,000 naira. For the normal student, which we can calculate, the highest as a returning student at that time, when the fees was proposed and it was reviewed, from 36,000 naira, 33,000 naira, you started paying 42,000 naira. If you do the calculations, you are saying that was okay. Let's say over 12,000 naira increment. Factoring inflation, factoring the fact that we can now have a. Do you not think that it was better if you think it was not humility, or if you think agreeing to certain what they call it, agreeing to certain changes is not a product of, I don't even, I like the term to use there, but you said humility. That was not humility. That was me simply doing a competent job.
Oh.
That's lovely.
Okay, Favor, I'm sure you have something to
Yeah,
contribute to this.
Okay, I would say that he has said a lot. He already said that humility is not saying yes to everything or no to everything. Humility is understanding your job description, what you're doing, while still having ears for the public, without the feeling of I am bigger than what you have to say. So the fact that I'm listening to you does not even mean I will consider what you're saying. It just means I respect your opinion, but it might not just be right. So it will have to go through different level of scrutiny before I pay attention to it. Did I listen to you? Yes, I did. Did I consider? Yes, I considered. But the end of my consideration is just that this was not the best option thing.
Amazing. Wow, thank you so much. And this will bring me to my fourth question, because we're already but before my fourth question, I want you, our audience, to be a part of this conversation. Do not forget, we're having Mr. Uga James Uga, which was the former SUG, the former SUG president of the University of Calabar. That was 2020-2021, if I'm correct, 2020-2021 academic session. And our phone line is 0906 9880 789. 0906 988 0789. 0906 9880 789. You can also send us a message on WhatsApp on 080 944 4058. So thank you very much, Emeritus. You've established that it was competent, because humility does not mean you say yes to everything that's been proposed. But when those things come to play, you give an open ear to the people you're serving. That's what humility is. Like, my people, this is what we have on ground. So what do we do? How do we attack this? And you established something, and you said that this leadership is about activism. Is an activism where, you know, the population, the population of this institution, they are already patterned to a belief system whereby if things are not going the way they perceive it should be, there will be an agitation. And it takes only a leader who understands what competence is, what humanity is, what having a foresight is, to be able to come to the table and make some certain agreements that at the moment may not please the followers, but has a ripple effect. Like today now we have the Unical Radio from the decision you made 2021. Lovely. Today we have about 3 pavilions from the decisions you made in 2021. But it was a turbulent decision. So how were you able to manage it?
Okay. I really want to understand the question. How was I able to manage making decisions? How was I able to manage the expectations?
The expectation of the followers and the result they got.
Well, the truth is, if you spend your whole time trying to explain to everybody to buy your idea and leadership, you end up getting understanding of your followers and not getting the results.
Deep.
Now, I think there are a lot of criticisms that arose. And because it is activism, like I said earlier, and in Nigeria, in university systems, we are used to saying a student union government that works is a student union government that says no. But that's not true. We cannot, progress is not usually a function of the things we can reject. It's usually a function of the certain risks we can take or make. And so, as at that time, I understood that my people who are the students, they really had genuine concerns. Because we cannot begin to want to downplay the fact that it is difficult to get money. And since money was a factor here, and we just came back from COVID, and people were struggling to make ends meet, it was going to be a difficult decision for everybody to make. And that was the reason why, eventually, when we even had to agree to certain terms for the purpose of development, we still said, no, we cannot pay this money once, we have to pay this money 60-40. That was considering. So now, how was I able to manage? It was difficult. Till today, people do not see it that way. People think it was a compromise that was breeded out of personal aggrandizement.
Okay.
But there are a few persons who have sat down, people like you and I, who can clearly differentiate sentiments from a real job done, that can begin to appreciate the value of what we have now and the value of what we didn't have. And so I felt like the best way to convince the people is if I tell you that there's a certain phone that is made that has 2 cameras, and this is the functions. These are the components of this phone. The best way to convince you is to show you that phone. And so I just said, the best way to get this done is to allow them to appreciate it for themselves.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Just like what my Gandhi said. Said, be the change that you wish to see in the world. So you were practicing that change. Amazing. So our first question is, how do exemplary leaders stay resilient in the face of setbacks and challenges? Just like you mentioned that there were challenges. So how do exemplary leaders, because to be an example most times is a critical stuff that you have to say a lot of no's. You have to say a lot of and few yes. So how can these people facing setbacks and all of that?
Okay, let me first start by correcting something. Now, there are no total number of no's in life that somebody has to say. Right? There are no total number of yes that somebody has to say, agree to. Now, usually it is the viability of the options you have that should lead to the decision you make.
Pattern.
So if I have a series of decisions I have to make that saying yes will yield better results, probably saying yes will be characterized, I will stay in that period. But probably saying no is the way forward. Then saying no will be the right thing to do. But how? It's not difficult. I said earlier that if you must be a good leader, number one, you must be a good human being.
First.
Well, we can appreciate the fact that life is in a stage of progress, all of us. And for you to sit down today to be the host in this particular leadership discussion, you've taken a series of decisions that sometimes were very difficult for you to make at the time. And so, while we understand there are certain dynamics that are complicated in leadership, the best way to stay ahead in leadership is number one, remain humble, like he said. Because if you don't allow ego to cloud you, you can always find time to appreciate the right and wrongs. You can always find time to remain a human being. You can always find time to listen to people who can guide you, to mentors. You can always find time to correct yourself if need be. You can always find time to say sorry. You can always find time to say, no, I think I'm right.
Amazing. So, Chiwe, before Fimo comes up, what would you have to say to this?
I'm so sorry, I got lost when he was talking. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, let's Fimo take up the...
Okay, so whether you're a leader or not, hard times will come. So we have to treat hard times for what they are and not for who is facing it. Because sometimes if you look at who is facing it, you'll be living in a false scenario you've created for yourself. One of the things I do very often when I have to challenge myself to do something, I ask myself, is this a possibility that exists for me? My answer might be no, yet. Is it a possibility that exists for another person? Heavily yes, and maybe 3 times more. What did the person do that made that a possibility available to that person at that time? I have to play my game following that. Remember, I usually say you don't have to go through a route that someone has gone through already and figure things out yourself. Ask questions. So there are leaders that have gone through phases of doubt, hardship, pressure, because the leadership seat is one very tight seat. So they have gone through these things. As a leader, I should not be the one teaching you the value of mentorship. I should not be the one teaching you the value of getting good information. In the pages of many books, you will find how to go through these phases without losing yourself. Because the worst thing that will happen to you as a leader is losing yourself while trying to lead people.
Yeah.
Because losing yourself means that you've lost focus and sense of direction to what aim you want to achieve. So how then do you get these people to this place? I would recap. So you have to treat problems for what they are and not for who is facing it. This hardship you're going through, why is it a reality for you? There are people that find these things easy. What did they do that made these things easy for them? Now come back to your drawing board. It might not be as easy as theirs, but what you're having from their experience is a roadmap on how to build yours. So you can take lessons from Adidas, that is a shoe or a canvas brand, to build your perfume brand. Remember that what you have is a roadmap. So you might not be using the exact things that Adidas use, but you are using their roadmap. You are using their idea of marketing. What they do, they market the services they provide more than the product, the comfort of their shoes and the rest. So you now know that you are not selling your perfumes, you're selling the feel and the confidence that come from using good perfumes. Okay. So now you have used an idea from what they did without having to copy them verbatim. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Favor. And I really appreciate that response because as a leader, you have to remain a learner. As a leader, you have to continue learning because you can never exhaust learning. Because every single person you meet gives you a reason to go and learn.
Honestly.
every day as you wake up in the morning, you meet a new friend. It gives you a reason as a leader. A new team member, it gives you a reason.
A new problem to solve.
New problem to solve. And if there are problems to solve, it means the idea you have prior to that time may not be enough, sufficient enough to solve that problem. What do you do as a leader? Will you hide in your ignorance that, oh, you've learned so much, I know so much, let me just tackle this problem? Before you know, you will fall like someone who does what? The way you will fall like someone who climbs a tree and maybe loses his step.
That's what Bible says. Pride goes before they fall.
Yeah,
and
before
what
you
is
fall.
fear is the whole destruction. So,
Absolutely.
that's true.
So you have to be open to learning. You have to be for you to be a resilient leader that will show example to others. You have to be a good learner.
Because sometimes you will come across problems that even you, because remember we are talking about exemplary leadership. That means it's about things you have first done and you're expecting others to do. So now the company that you're leading is faced with a new problem that you have no example for. As an exemplary leader, you should be able to take examples
from good leaders.
So that means to lead by example is to follow examples.
It's follow examples.
Good examples.
Thank you very much, Favor. You have to take good examples as a leader. You have to ensure at all point in time, and that is done by learning. You have to be open to learning. You don't have to be arrogant. You don't have to feel like you've known everything in the world. So, sir, this question goes to you. What were your experiences? Okay, I think we've answered this, but I still want you to mention most of those experiences you had as an SCG president and how you were able to tackle them. And if you were to be an SCG president today, what will you do differently?
Okay. Let me try to answer. I do hope I'm providing the right answer. As to experiences we had, the challenges we faced, I believe the administration was one administration that was very open.
Okay.
So people can begin to criticize many decisions that we made. So when I did things that should have done differently, yes. And during my stay as president, I learned a valuable lesson. That sometimes the way to go is not usually the most prominent way, it's not the most available way. Now, one thing that characterized that administration, that is a major highlight for me as an individual that I learned from, was when we were faced with the challenge that came with a union officer being at the spotlight of doing the wrong thing. I can remember at that time a lot of students came out, there were certain headlines everywhere. A lot of person calling for me to resign. For certain personal correlations that they wanted to draw, relationship correlations. And the highlight of all of that for me, where I think that I should have done differently, is that I should have learned as a leader to be able to delegate more functions. See, in leadership, your major job as a leader is not to gather everything and do.
To delegate.
is to provide inspiration for proper delegation.
Amazing. Interesting.
What will I do differently? Like, if which I will not be, you guys carry it to me. But have a good team as a leader. Your job should be better as a leader. If you give me a team today to work with, I'd rather be concentrating my effort on building that team to do the job. Because as a leader, the truth is this: you are really challenged. You are faced with certain number of. Since you are in the spotlight, generally, now you this stage now you all
If
the.
they fail, it's still going
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
fail.
So,
And if you succeed too,
It's still to fail.
but because of that they've said something. The reason why you sit in a board most times is not because managers cannot sit to take certain executive decisions. Rather because the more minds you have deliberating on a certain situation, the lesser your error rate.
Absolutely.
Because more minds can see different errors that
From
you have
different
not
that you cannot picture. So now if you have an empowered team, sir, leadership becomes very easy, very, very sweet. So what will I do differently? What will I do differently? If I wish
Which
What do you do?
I feel because there are certain things that your team to do it. They'll give you more results.
Okay, Favor, before we go on a very short break, could you give us a view of
Maybe
that?
this question was supposed to be for Emirates. I'm trying to ask you. Okay, so I will just build up from what he already said.
Yes.
Permit me, I love examples so much. Maybe we are talking about exemplary leadership, so I'll still use examples. The effectiveness of a team, the importance of an effective team can be learned from, should I say, USAID, UN, United Nations. You see that they have people working as project managers, they have people working as the accountants for a project, they have people working as maybe monitoring and evaluation, and they do not just send these people to the field without training. You understand that if they have to see the results they hope to see, the people that are meant to bring this result have to be trained and informed. Now, the ego of a leader, where humility should come in, is that you don't even understand that whether you're the one that does this thing or not, it's going to come back to you. And to even be more beautiful, that outside the fact that this project worked, your subordinates can say, thank God for the opportunity to serve. What's your name, please?
James.
Okay, sorry. Thank God for the opportunity to serve in James' government. I had the opportunity to learn on the job. By virtue of this position, he did not take the duties by himself, rather he forced me into growth. Because if you keep giving somebody one task and the person keeps failing, trust me, the person will advise the person serving the Lord. My own never do. So, by the time the person starts seeing the result of competence that has come from working with you as an effective leader, because as an effective leader, you do not just raise subordinates, you raise effective people that have learned the art of service and delivery. So that means the project worked, yes. Everybody will applaud you. Your team was great. James was the team leader. The team was great. But even your team members will say, this guy knew how to lead. Leadership is about carrying people along. It's not about carrying yourself and people are following you. So your ability to carry them along, like with your duties, and they are learning on the job, such that if they leave your organization to another organization, they are still very effective and they get to be appreciated. They don't have to, it's because of James I knew this thing. It is a true meaning of living an exemplary life.
All right, thank you very much. Do not forget, in a few minutes we'll be back, and I want you to be a part of this conversation. I know you will have 1 or 2 questions for Mr. James Ugar in the house, former ICG president, and the line to call is 0906 989. See you in a moment. University of Calabar, 221, 220 to 221 academic session. And I also have here with me my wonderful co-hosts, the wonderful women in the house. Sorry, I forgot to wish you people happy International Women's Day.
Yes, thank you very much for coming on time.
All right, so I would give the mic now to my dear co-host Favor to ask our president the last question for today.
Okay. Okay, so my question is going to be this way. In the spirit of just finishing from the women's week, permit me to address it as such.
Okay.
Every organization have leaders, or should I say women, that might be part of the governing body. And so how would you, as a man that might, since we are talking about exemplary leadership, as a man that might not fully understand how the woman's mind work, or how they go about things, how would you treat the ladies in your governing body, and also the ladies you find in your followership cartel too?
Okay. As I said earlier, you're going to bring it back.
I'm innocent, please.
Well, what? I'm one person who would like to be very honest with myself and everybody I'm talking to. I think creating certain segregations are reasons why society might fail. So I believe, despite the fact that we're trying to move from an imbalanced society already, where we had the predomination of the male category of land in major leadership roles, industries, job, and the fact that we're trying to say, okay, let there be more inclusion, which is the reason why we are trying to, as a society, give maybe, let's say, an advantage to the to women, but generally, I think where we are trying to gravitate to is to get to a level where there's a balance.
I like the use of balance, not
Now,
quality.
when you get to balance, therefore means that the rules must be fair, and if the rules must be fair, it means that for Mr. A or Mrs. A, my interaction with them should not have a certain level of bias because of they are either Mr. or Miss. So if you ask me, except from the fact that, okay, how will I treat? Just try to ensure that whatever we're doing has a human face, so everybody can try.
Okay, so I don't know why you said that was about to come, because your answer is perfect. So the use of the word balance there is beautiful, because sometimes we feel when we are handling these things, it means that the man in the organization should be treated like the woman in the organization. It means that it can be a 60-40. It can be an 80-20. 80-20 cannot be balanced. It could be a 70-30 or 60-40. There's this experiment we do as physics students, I think the pivot, where sometimes the center of gravity might not necessarily be, it might be 50, but it does not mean that the two weights are the same. Sometimes the weight on this side might be 60
Slightly.
or maybe 30 or
Slightly.
70. So there is a balance, but it's not
An
uniform.
obvious inequality.
It might not be uniform. So what I'm trying to say is that you might be caught up in the web of equality instead of equity. So you might be caught up in the web of, since women want to lead now, or since women want to come up from their shell, that means, let me assume you are working in a place where there are heavy duty loads, and since this lady is clamoring for what is fair to her, maybe by virtue of her contributions to the organization, or by virtue of promotional criteria, she should be ahead of this man. And then a report is brought to you that this woman don't want to carry this heavy load up, or maybe she said she's equal, right? So it means that you will be fair enough to say she might be equal in the sense, it's not even equal, we are not equal, please. So it is only fair that you as a guy carry this thing. That means you
Probably it's only fair that we'll look for a machine to carry this.
exactly. So it does.
Absolutely.
So the idea is that the woman is given her due rights as much as the man is respected, and you are not trying to see that the woman functions as a man or the man functions as a woman, but they both function at their different strength levels to maintain a balance.
A balance. All right, thank you, sir. And before we go for today, because we're already, yes, already, we have about 2 minutes left. So I could now see, because I think while you were in president, there was this headlines everywhere. I can't just remember what happened.
Legislative member.
Okay, and the way you carry the matter on your head, is it that you really have this ideology of ensuring that women are being protected?
Okay. Is it that I have ideology that women should be protected? I think.
You think it was obvious? Okay, so that if it was not an ideology, why would you fight for it?
Oh, no, please, thank you. Don't give me more credit than I deserve. But this is what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that I think that every human being should be protected. Irrespective of, I'm not a crowd person. I think I've been trying to tell you since here that I'm not afraid of making decisions that are not popular, but are effective decisions. Whether it was, of course, we had instances where a lot of persons, the crowd, if you cannot, why do we kick against mob action? Is it because there are no obvious reasons that this person has stolen? Or because we want a society where there's justice, there's equity, there's fair trial?
Yeah.
A society where because of we now glorified mob action, we now have a situation where the job of the law is usurped by somebody who's supposed to be. So what happened then was simple. It was not an attempt to maybe project myself as somebody
And a feminist. But it's good for the good, it's good for the
now, if the person has done the wrong thing, the way we can handle this issue is allow the person to go through the process of getting justice. And even in advanced countries where there is justice, even a criminal has a right.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because the fact that we are against the law today do not mean that in the entirety of bad people. Yes. So,
All right, thank you very much, our listeners, and hope you enjoyed today. Before we go, I want our president to just in 1 second, advise young people out there who are clamoring for leadership or are already in leadership on how he has mentioned a lot, but just to crown it all.
okay. You said in seconds, I hope I'm able to do that. Well, actually, I was trying to look at some stuff and then I came across a certain quote by Bernard Brecht.
Okay.
And since we're talking about leadership, I want to try to campaign for political awareness against political apathy. It said, and I quote, "The worst illiterate is the political literate. He hears nothing, says nothing, takes no part in any political life. He doesn't seem to know that the cost of living, the price of beans, of flour, of rent, of medicines, all depends on political decisions. He even prides himself on his political ignorance, sticks out his chest and says he hates politics. He doesn't know the imbecile
breaking the
that
rules.
from the political non-participation comes the prostitute on the streets, the abandoned child, the robber, and worst of all, corrupt officials. These lackeys of exploitative multinational corporations, if you refuse to participate, it means the absence of your good.
What a good wrap. So thank you very much. Thank you. And I want this opportunity to wish Mr. Oyo Effiong happy birthday, founder of Guru Foundation and Guru Innovation Hub. So happy birthday, so wherever you are, you've been contributing immensely in Crossover State and Nigeria at large, and we celebrate you from our end here. I and my team and everyone in the studio here on the Unique Show. We want to say happy birthday to you. Please, could you just say
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday. So thank you very much. See you on Tuesday next week, the same time, 2 p.m. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. It was great being here. I mean, it's great being here.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Please, can you come and take us some shots? God, oh no. Okay, when you
Still left that thing.
Keep quiet.
Did you upload?
Yes. No. Suck off. No, without it.
okay, let's get to
I just want to bring.